Hi, this is directed to the panel as a whole, I guess, and who wants to answer. I'm just wondering what the current advice is for people that have had a cardiac event or a stroke in terms of adopting LCHF or not.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Just wondering what the current advice is for people that have had a cardio event, a heart attack or a stroke, in terms of them adopting LCHF or not.
Oh, is this on? Yeah. I would say the recommendations and is pretty much the same. I wouldn't be changing anything, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't be adopting this. If you were concerned about it, then you could get bloods done before and bloods done afterwards to see what the changes were that were occurring, and have your medications monitored, but there's no reason why somebody, and if anything, you're going to be benefiting greatly from it. Yeah.
How does this diet affect arthritis? I've got arthritis in my big toe. I'm just wondering, will this diet help arthritis?
I don't have arthritis, but with football comes a lot of injuries, sprained ankles, that sort of thing. I found I had decreased pain. Normally I do my first 2 laps in our warm-up and ankles would be sore to do the warm-up. After 2 laps I was fine, but I found that pain for the 2 laps has gone away, and those inflammation of the joints, especially my knees and ankles, much decreased since I've started. I know it's not arthritis, but they're similar kind of symptoms.
I'll add to that. Sugar is extremely inflammatory, and the types of fats that we're recommending, Z touched on avoiding omega-6 type oils, so those are all your seed oils and your vegetable oils. Those are the fats that we're staying away from, the processed oils, and those are also pro-inflammatory. So by reducing those 2 things, your inflammatory response should be reduced, and therefore things like arthritis, there could be some positive responses on there. I don't know how much research, do you know how much research has been done around that?
Everything's again individual based thing, but certainly no harm from changing your diet for this, and certainly I see a lot of benefit from this, but it depends on what the underlying state is with the arthritic change already.
I think totally agree with the sentiments around an anti-inflammatory diet, which will definitely help increasing the omega-3 to 6 ratio. But also we have a fantastic natural lubricant called synovial fluid, which is also extremely beneficial, which comes about through movement. Depending on your pain threshold and the discomfort, you may have to rein that in, but as much gentle, slow movement as possible is really beneficial. The temptation is to avoid movement entirely because there is some acute pain, which only worsens the condition. There's lots of evidence in relation to the right types of movement making the issues of arthritis much more bearable. So I'd highly recommend ensuring that you have a prescription for movement as well as the dietary recommendations.
Right.
Actually, it's Vicky mostly. I'm just wondering if someone was interested in studying nutrition. Obviously, if you went to do the course, you'd get taught all the outdated stuff. I'm just wondering if you would think it worth doing a dietitian's course, even despite what you're going to have to learn, or if you had your time over, would you go do nutrition instead, somewhere where they actually are a bit more progressive?
So in America, there's a lot of debate about whether someone should go through the traditional program of, I don't know, there's a registered dietitian here as well, so the RD program or not, and the reasoning becomes to do it. That's the only way we'll ever make change within that system. So if people continue to avoid that system, then the RDs continue to push the low-fat, high-carb diet, nothing ever changes. And just for example, my Friday podcast co-host is an RD, Cassie Bjork, and she is using what she calls PFC balance, so it's protein, fat, carbs, to the individual. Like Z was just saying, you have to tailor it to the individual rather than pushing a low-fat, high-carb dogma. So from my perspective, I like that idea of getting it traditionally and then learning along the way, coming to conferences like this one and learning and adding to the education you're getting there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I wouldn't change anything. I'm very glad that I did the course, and there's lots more learnings from that than just these are the black and white rules. It's about learning to interpret studies. It's about learning how research is done, and those skills, you know, are really important. So no, I wouldn't do a different course. I wouldn't recommend doing a different course. And you know, from the inside, you can make changes. So you know, I put myself out there and said, I'm doing this differently. But on the quiet, there are many dietitians who contact me and say, we want to do things differently too. And there's definitely movement towards things being done in a different way. So if that's what you want to do, I'd encourage you to go that path.
Hi, my name's Daniela, and I want to ask, what does a plate look like for breakfast, lunch and dinner for those people starting out, and then also when they're a fair way along their journey? In particular, how do you incorporate fats into each of those meals?
Could we start? Tom, do you want to do breakfast? How do you get more fat in your breakfast?
Bacon's a good way to start. It's not a bit of fun. I'd go between, probably most days now I would have bacon and eggs, either poached or fried eggs and bacon in the fry pan. I would cook it in either, usually butter actually. I'll have avocado at breakfast, and I may have, so that'll be my breakfast, or I'll just have leftovers of what I had for dinner the other night. Some people don't like doing that, but they're usually the two options. So if I had a curry the night before, I may just have leftovers for that for breakfast. Might be weird, I know, but that's something I do. Or I'll go bacon, eggs, avocado, with maybe a piece of fruit to take in the car on the way to work. So that's my options.
Daryl, lunch. You're a paleo guy. What do you have for lunch?
Yeah, some choice animal proteins. Probably for lunch I would have fish, especially because of omega-3 fatty acids. I would have, I do a lot of coconut oil. Some say I'm frying them, some frying the fish or grilling the fish. I'd have some avocado, lots of leafy greens, and probably some. My heritage is from West Africa. I'm from the Caribbean, but West African originally, so some really good West African yam. Not too much, just a little bit to get a little bit of a taste that I love. So that'd be my lunch.
Great. Jimmy, how do you get more fat into dinner time?
So I'm going to take a different spin on this, because I don't think there's any such thing as breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack, midnight snack. I don't eat that way anymore. When I was a carb addicted, 410 pound, 185 kilo, I'm making my brain do funny things today, man, I would eat all the time. But what I found eating low carb, high fat is you don't need to eat so often. So my break fast is my first meal of the day. I just don't think it has to be in the morning. It could be, like, I wanted to intermittent fast today, but I didn't want to eat lunch, so I was like, okay, let's have breakfast, but then I'm going to intermittent fast during lunch. So I'm not a big fan of these meal times that we have to eat by the clock. One of the things we put in Keto Clarity was, listen to your satiety. If you're not hungry when you wake up in the morning, guess what? You're eating ketones for breakfast. Then if you do get a little peckish around 12 or 1 o'clock, then eat something, and it's going to be something that's high fat, moderate protein, low carb. I really love eggs. They're so nutrient dense, so easy, so cheap. So my meal would be like eggs with some cheese. And yes, you can have breakfast for lunch and dinner, right? So eggs with some cheese and maybe a little bit of sour cream on top, the avocado. And if I still want a little more fat and protein, bacon. So that's an easy meal. For dinner, you can also have a steak with some green leafy vegetables. It's so easy to eat this way. It's so funny, people, what do you eat? It's this really revolutionary thing. It's called real food.
Great, thanks.
I'm Charlie. We were talking about people worrying about putting on or not losing weight when they expect to on this diet. And I'd like your comments on this. I'm suggesting that perhaps people who are struggling with weight on the diet is perhaps because their GI tracts aren't dealing with the fats, digesting the fats, their livers are perhaps struggling, and they've got toxicity issues. And I'm suggesting that as a wellness coach in my programs, what I do is I use a stepping stone approach and focus for someone coming off a junk food diet to try and get straight on to low carb, high fat is quite difficult. But if you go take the stepping stone approach, deal with the toxins, because if you don't deal with the toxins, you're not going to burn your fat. Deal with that, get the weight loss down, deal with inflammation, and become leptin sensitive and fat adapted. And then once you start loading up on the fats, there's no ways you're going to put on weight. I know that since I've become leptin sensitive, once I've had enough, there's just no ways. You have to force feed me my favourite.
Okay, now there's one question I see in there which is stepwise or jump in at the deep end. Vicky, what do you think? And then Z. Yeah.
Look, I think there is some merit in what you're saying in regards to possibly healing your gut. There's a lot around gut health. A lot of people who have been on unhealthy, high carb diets or just eating the wrong types of food in terms of your gut diversity, your inflammatory responses. There's what some people might know the term of leaky gut and all of those sorts of things that are going on in. And that can delay how you respond to a low carb, high fat diet. Whether I would say somebody needs to be mild about how they start this process. Really strict. Oh, so you're saying they should be really strict? Oh yes. So I'm definitely of that way. I prefer somebody to jump straight in, not to. I think if somebody tries to do this really slowly and sort of does it and not, it's sort of sitting on the fence and it doesn't really happen and you sway back and forth. I think jumping in head first and really giving it a red hot go, lifting your fats up, dropping your carbs down low is the way to go. I don't think a step by step is necessarily the best thing to do.
Z.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's individual based, but the first thing I say is just concentrate on getting the right food into your system without worrying about the weight at the start, and then let's see how things evolve from there.
And I would add, look away from the non-dietary reasons why weight would not come off. Because there's so many things that impact weight. The diet, you could eat the best diet in the world, have the best ketone levels, be rocking it, and not losing a single pound because of lack of sleep, because of stress, because of medications, because of hormones, because of getting older. I mean, there are so many non-diet reasons why weight can be a problem that I'm all about gung-ho. Do it full on and you're going to see the best effects.
Okay, let's take another question. Thanks.
Hi, I run a personal training studio, train similar to what we've gone through today. My, I guess, dilemma's been over the last 12 months is getting my clients eating this way, but then not moving out of my scope of practice as well, so then not able to refer them to anyone. I've recently come across a program called Diet Flex, and I was just wondering whether any of the panel, it's Brisbane orientated, I don't know whether any of the panel have heard of it.
I can speak to that because the other founder of Low Carb Down Under is my mate in Brisbane called Jamie Hayes, and it's his program. So I'd better give it a plug. Look, I think it's really good. They're very careful. They have 28 franchises of Healthy Inspirations gyms around Australia and New Zealand, and I think they get good results. It's very carefully thought through. I think they tend to go hard on very low carb to start with and then gently reintroduce carbs as the weeks go by until you reach a level where you're no longer losing weight or achieving the goals you want. So it's a good opportunity to give my mate Jamie a plug. Thanks.
That's right, because I thought it, like you said, it fitted well to be able to individualise people, and from someone like myself then, because it's backed by a dietitian, created by a dietitian, that then I can, I'm not moving out of my scope of practice by using it as well. So.
Yeah. Jamie was on the cruise with Jimmy and myself in 2012, and he's been a great mover and shaker, and we're looking forward to getting to Brisbane next weekend, where we're going to stay at his lovely house on the Brisbane River and talk low carb for a weekend. So thanks.
I was just wondering, you guys were saying that, you know, jumping head first, you know, straight in was, you know, probably the best way to go. I was just wondering if there was another side to, you know, possibly some down effects. Like I was probably eating 300 grams of carbs a day, and I'm now down to probably 18 grams or less. And I'm now up to probably 130 grams of fat a day. And I was just wondering if there were any sort of down effects to going, you know, that full on straight away.
I would say it depends on your starting point. I mean, if things are pretty horrendous for you, the big bang may be the only way, you know, forward. But I think we also need to consider longevity. So my concern is not so much what effects there will be after 30 days or a few short weeks. It's how you're going to maintain this lifestyle for the rest of your life. So for some individuals, that kind of a soft knee approach, a gentler approach, one that they're more likely to maintain and still achieve their goals. It may take a little bit longer, but I'd rather see somebody a few years later saying, hey, you know what, I'm still living this lifestyle, having that too much disruption, rather than I did 30 days really strict, then I crashed and burned, then I'm doing another 30 days really strict. And I'm sure you know people who do the whole 30 every 6 months, for example, because they feel as if they have to get back to that level of perfection, they can't maintain it long term. So I think there is an alternative, and longevity has to be one of the factors that need to be considered in any form of lifestyle change.
And one thing I think that helps doing it full on is you get to see the full effect of what this is going to do for you. And I know when I was 410 pounds, I just needed to lose. I didn't care how quickly or slowly, I just needed to lose. And so having that quick weight loss from doing it full on was what motivated me to keep doing it. So sometimes if you ease into it, you're like, I tried that, but that thing didn't work. I didn't see the results I wanted as quickly as I wanted. Well, you didn't do it full on. If you do it full on and then don't see results, then maybe that's something else to talk about. But most people will see pretty quick results, and that will feed into them wanting to keep doing it.
Also, just a quick question about preservatives and the effects on the body in, you know, supplements. There are lots of preservatives and stuff like that, just the effects that they take on the body.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if you can go back to real food without preservatives as much as possible, most of the time I think it's overall more beneficial. Different preservatives have different effects on the body, so yeah, if you can steer clear of it, I think it's far greater for your health.
Look, we've got time for one more question. If the others would like to keep their rank order for later on, we'll be happy to take your questions. Yeah, yes, thanks.
Thanks. The last speaker, Brian, mentioned a vegetarian he was working with. I want to know whether the low-carb, high-fat can be adapted to a vegan diet, or do you think that's completely out of the room? You know, is that not possible? How easy do you think that is?
I'll pass it on to the dietitian.
I just recently heard a new term, paleo-vegan, being thrown around.
Yes, there is a new book out called Paleo-Vegan.
Yeah, so look, it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, sure.
I think if we were able to include eggs in there, and no, it's very difficult. I think it's very difficult. If you listen to Tim Noakes, who says there's probably no place for vegetarians in low carb, high fat, I think it would be hard. Yeah, so I think you'd have to think about how it worked for yourself and what you were willing to compromise and what not. You could certainly get some fats in there, but whether that is going to be enough to sustain you, yeah, it's questionable.
Thanks for. Okay, thank you very much.